I'd ask for nominations for chairperson. Councillor Long.
Nominate Deputy Mayor Donna Danaka.
Ask for nominations a second time. Nominations a third time. Seeing none, do you accept?
Thank you.
You want to sit over here? Grab her name tag here, Michael.
Don't you have music you can play while she's coming across?
What, like, Price is Right?
Yeah.
Or the funeral march?
Turn the meeting over to you.
It depends on if you like sharing meetings.
Donna, to your worship.
Alrighty. Call to order. Adoption of the agenda. We have an addendum 3B2. Oh, sorry, thank you. 3B2. Letter of support, Trans Mountain Pipeline. And this other one, what is this?
That's
Just for information, okay. So if I can, somebody wants to make a motion to accept the agenda with the addition. Councillor Courtley. All in favor? Carried. Moving on, we have a scheduled delegation, Louise Meyer, FCSS Director. If you want to come forward to the mic.
And Nancy.
And then,
Nancy's not coming up? Oh, come on, Nancy.
Really good at that thing working again.
The 15 minutes starts from when we announced it, you know.
There's a lineup behind you.
Okay, so my PowerPoint is there, and I am. Do you want us to move your table up?
Table's on. Yeah, we can move it. Well, depends on where the chair is.
You don't have a mouse, eh?
No.
We had to share it here last week.
You're all by yourself.
I'm home myself, and I have a microphone on the out.
Can you translate?
No. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to do a presentation on our CSS program. I really appreciate it. I don't want to take up too much of your time. And I'm really excited about the challenge that this is
Slideshow. You hit slideshow at the top. Wait, on the top there, slideshow. And then current slide when it opens. You can hit it, double click it. There, and then current slide at the far side.
From the beginning.
Or from the beginning. Next, it's right along that row, to the end. Who says we're not cooperating?
So, you know, Big Lakes Family Community Services is a partnership between the town of High Prairie and Big Lakes County. What is FCSS? Family Community Services is a provincially legislated organization that is funded by two levels of government. It's partially funded by the province of Alberta and partially funded by local municipalities. Big Lakes FCSS is funded by the province of Alberta, Big Lakes County, and the town of High Prairie. What is the purpose of FCSS? It was started in 1966 in Alberta and social services. And we are the only province that has this service. There's nothing in any of the other provinces that compares to it. The name has changed, but the purpose and overarching goal remains. To enhance the social well-being of individuals, family, and community through prevention or intervention. Provided at the earliest opportunity. Strategic directions. Every FCSS program must meet at least one of these 5 directions. We report on these programs every year to the province. Help people to develop independence, strengthen coping skills, and become more resistant to crisis. Help people to develop awareness of social needs. Help people to develop interpersonal and group skills which enhance constructive relationships with others. Help people and communities to assume responsibility for decisions and actions which affect them. And to provide supports that help sustain people as active participants in the community. Meeting local needs. While there are overarching goals that are shared by all FCSS in the province, the FCSS program allows for programming to meet local needs while meeting the provincial strategic directions. Some FCSS functions are the same throughout the province. In Big Lakes County, FCSS also delivers several types of programs based on the identified needs of our own communities. So we have people coming to us and saying, well, in Peace River they do this, or in Rimbey they do that, or in Edmonton they do this. And we don't always do the same programs as everyone else. We've tailored our programs to, like I say, to meet needs of our communities. And one of the things that's unique about our FCSSs is that we have offices in the town of High Prairie and the hamlets. And so it's right, your offices are right where the people are, people that have that part of office. What that looks like for Big Lakes FCSS. To illustrate, we'll use a forest. Each tree represents one of the areas of service we provide. Together, all the trees make up our work. Community outreach. Sorry, I'm a little technical on the challenge. So we do one-on-one, confidential, and private support to residents. Problem solving, referrals to other agencies, assistance with many applications, and I won't read all of them. Assistance with paperwork and support when a family member dies, supportive listening, resumes, life skills, planning and budgeting, parenting information, help accessing services locally, provincially, and federally, and so much more. We try to help people with whatever they need. Events. So this is what we're most well known for because you see us in the newspaper doing these events all the time. Community events we do 3 Seniors Week events, 2 in the town, a wellness fair on Monday, lunch and bingo on Tuesday, and then we do a lakeshore, what we call a lakeshore luncheon in the county at a different location each year. This year it's in Canuso, and we invite all the seniors from the county and the town, and we have up to, I think we had 160 seniors last year for that. We do Volunteer Appreciation Week, 7 events, 5 hamlet events, and last year we did 2 town events, and I haven't updated this, but this year we did 1 because we had the larger venue. Family Day, we do 6 events, 5 in the house, 1 in the town, and we also do the county barbecue. Programs. We do the Red Silhouette program, the domestic violence awareness campaign. You'll see the red cutouts around town for a week in November. We do the Christmas hamper program for the county. We do community volunteer tax program and we do approximately up to 400 a year for low-income families. This year we brought close to $2 million back into the county and town with GST returns. So if these people whose income tax rebate hadn't have done it, that money would have come back particularly. Caregiver support, home support program. We have 4 home support workers and up to between 20 and 25 clients at any given time. We do youth after-school programs in some communities, and we do life skills here in Hutt Prairie High School. We offer the Home Alone Safety Program when required. We do the Hamlet Newsletter Program, and we're working on the new rural transportation program. County Council has approved the purchase of a bus, and we're just looking at all the specs right now. And that will serve both the town of High Prairie and the county for specifically starting out once a month to Grand Prairie. Otherwise, it'll be bringing people from the county to Grand Prairie. We do the Wall of Fame program for the county. There's continuous reevaluation of current programs and researching opportunities for new programs. Yes, FCSS is always responsible for emergency social services. So emergency and disaster social services, municipal, regional, and provincial. We do ongoing training and preparedness. And so if there is an evacuation, FCSS will be in charge of providing registration, inquiry, food services, lodging, volunteer services, that sort of thing. And we have a plan for various scenarios. We do county services as well from the county, so we take a few payments for a few county services. So that helps. So we do outreach, events, programs, ESS, and county services in the hamlets. We do the county services, of course, not really do. These functions are not created equally. What we do most of is actually not what you see us doing. For example, in the case of a disaster, the ESS function becomes the highest priority. But in day-to-day operations, FCSS is most visible in home events. And through some of our programs. reality is that our most visible efforts are not what we do the most. It stacks up something like this. If this forest represents the various work in the community,
It helps build suspense.
Just gonna develop the anti-violent program after this.
Now you tell them, it's like 2 slides.
Everybody's asleep. SCSS, most visible work is about this much of the work. This is much better. Programs, events. What makes up the bulk of the work is outreach. Community outreach. One-on-one, confidential, and private support to residents now. Why can't you see outreach? Because it's confidential. When assisting with private matters such as mental health issues, health and disability matters, abusive relationships, parenting struggles, financial problems, and other subjects, the stories cannot be shared. This is the largest part of the SCSS team's work, and we can't tell you about it or share the success stories, nor can we share the stories that don't end well. Big Lakes SCSS reports monthly to the county and to the town, and extensively share the progress on our programs and work. Our outreach work can be seen on our number form only on our statistics sheet. Office visits and assistance to the residents has increased over 180% over the last 5 years throughout our 6 locations. The fact that our numbers have increased so much tells us a few things. SCSS is providing an important service to help reduce the burden on our provincial social services agencies. People trust SCSS to help. So, this was presented, I apologize, this was presented to the county council, and we should say town council too. Because of the support of county and county council, a 7-member FCS board, and it's 5 members now, and the town, and Big Lakes FCS outreach program is a very unique and very successful program. And thank you for your support. So, as far as funding is concerned, the program is funded, primarily by, Big Lakes County. They contribute way more than they need, so they're supposed to be in the 20%. They actually cover 57% last year of all the costs for the entire program. So, that's all. Thank you very much. I get a lot of questions from people on what we do and what you guys do. And Nancy works really, really hard at the office here in High Prairie. She does more of the community volunteering contact program than the other workers, and hosts a number of events, which are really a lot of work. And I really appreciate her work here. Would you like to add anything, Nancy? No, if anyone has any questions.
When you talk about disaster services, I'm assuming that you partake in the tabletop exercises and the things that go on with the chief and other agencies.
With Big Lakes County.
Yeah. Is there a disaster preparedness scenario put together for the trains to go through, like a Lac-Mégantic sort of scenario? Are we prepared for that?
We do, FCSS, we do our own small workshops and scenarios, every 2 years we should come out. And the county now, the fire chief there is the manager of emergency services, our new fire chief. And Pat Walaski, who was the director FCSS, we have, a number of different, locations where we could set up. We could set up in High Prairie. Jussard, we have, all our kits in Jussard, and we have, Jussard, all of your stored, even, equipment to make food, like, we could also use, Canisius Hall. So the scenarios we've gone through are what if a bridge is out, say between the one and Imelda. So what would we do? How would we work that? So we're all, the rest of us are caught up. Nancy would have to run something here. Buchanan Center, and we'd have to run something at Jussard. And we look at all of the possibilities, that we may have to, High Prairie's an age, you go to the plant. Say something happened to the gas plant, we could not. The other workers could not get here. It's too close to High Prairie. So there's always agreements with the local councils too. So we have all of our scenarios with FCSS. What we do if we were cut off from High Prairie or from, say, this one overflow and people would probably, what would we do with them? Hope that answers your question.
They sure did.
Are there any more questions?
Go ahead.
You talked about the workers like Nancy. Do you have anybody in Swan Hills doing the same thing, or?
Swan Hills has their own,
Oh, they do.
and they are, actually are connected with, the central FCSS. Like, there's different regions, and we are Northwest FCSS, so that's Grand Prairie and Peace Country. Swan Hills, actually, theirs is central, they go quite north. They're in the same areas, like Coitus and Unifor.
I just thought that they're being part of Big Lakes County, that they would be
No.
with you guys, right?
No, they aren't. They, before, for years, they've had a very, well-established FCSS. And we do talk with them on Swan Trina.
Yeah, I've never heard of anybody talking to them or
Oh, yeah.
hearing about a FCSS
We are in touch.
in Swan Hills.
And they have a very good one.
Okay.
Very good. FCSS.
Councillor Courtney?
Talking about emergency scenarios and stuff, I just curious. I'm not really up on the chain of command. So if there's a catastrophe, an emergency, obviously the first people that know are of course the RCMP, 911, the fire. So who makes that call? Where's that line of communication between RCMP, fire, and you guys? Like, who,
The
you
call
know what I
is
mean?
made by the mayor to the province for it to become an official emergency. And then the director of emergency management start situating the other people.
Yeah. So like you say, that you use the example that like the Plains plant blows up. You know, the extreme conditions. So that's the chain of command then. So from the RCMP, the emergency fire, and then Ken, that's what happens is you make that call to.
We would call, and whoever's, like Brian would have to declare a state or local emergency.
Council.
And then
Okay,
it goes
no,
to the province.
I was
And
missing a
once
couple
we
cogs
actually
there.
have a state or local emergency,
Yep. Okay.
I do have an ESS PowerPoint too, but.
No, just putting all the pieces together as to how and when that call comes to you guys to say we need that assistance. Like, is it?
It would come to me.
Yeah.
And then I would contact council, and council declares a state of local
Okay.
emergency.
Okay. Never been in that situation, so I've been in lots of emergencies, but not to that degree. But
hopefully we never.
well, that's exactly right, Ken? But no, I just. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. No, I just getting it square in my mind. Yeah. Because, for example, the fires in Slave Lake that went through that scenario, right? So, and we used High Prairie for a lot of that.
The one that set up in Arena, right? For the fires in Slave Lake?
Yeah.
You guys
No,
had a-
we set up, the fire stuff with people from Gift Lake, but.
Right, but
And the
during that same time, right?
It was during that same time that we were cut off, so they all went the other way that fast.
Right.
Even during the Fort Mac fire.
Yep.
We were working with all the people in Fort Mac. 10 hours a day, 10 a day.
Right.
We just established finally.
But that didn't come through council,
No.
so that would have came from.
They come through, because when I was a state of local emergency, they contacted Big Lakes County.
Oh.
And basically, they
Okay.
declared their state
Yeah.
of local emergency.
Okay. Okay. No, I just.
Like the chain of command is that when the director of emergency management, fire chief, and RCFD decided it's bad enough that it's emergency.
A community
they take it to
emergency.
Council they take it to CEO,
Yep,
council,
yep.
and then council through their mayor, and then go to the province.
Correct. Okay. No. Thank you very much.
Anybody have any other questions for Louise or Nancy?
Just have one
Councillor Rose?
commenting question, but comment is just, you guys do an absolutely amazing job. There's just so many things that are on your plate, and you guys do a great job of all of it. So thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
And I get to see that firsthand, Judy and I, because we're part of the board, and so we get to see the inner workings of what all these ladies do. But your statistics for increasing use of, I guess, all of the services, do you kind of see that as a trend going forward? And are you going to have funds, and are you going to have bodies in order to be able to keep up with the amount of increase?
I think we are. We've leveled off
Have you?
now. We have leveled right off. But last year we had that decline. I'm sorry, this is last year's PowerPoint. I thought last year's, but
Right.
we have leveled off now. So, and as far as expenditures, we spent a little less last year than we did the year before. So I think that so far we're managing. But it does get really busy sometimes. In certain seasons, like now, this is our busy season. We have community volunteer income tax and volunteer appreciation, senior appreciation, and so on. How do I take this out of here?
Are there any other questions? No questions? No more questions? Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Thanks for
If you have any
coming,
more questions, you can call me.
for giving us an update.
I don't know.
That's part of it?
Even if it's
Okay.
on silent.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
And we'll bring our income tax to you tomorrow. We want the 2 million.
Okay, moving along with the agenda, public delegations. Any public delegations? Seeing none, moving forward. Protective Services Fire Chief's report. Could I get a motion, please? Councillor Gilroy?
I move that council receive the fire chief's March and April 2018 reports for information.
Well, as you see before you there, my report, March has been, was really, really quiet for us. We only had 4 emergency calls the whole month. One was in High Prairie, 2 were in the county of Big Lakes, and 1 was a call to motor vehicle incident. So, yeah, March was really quiet. April, however, was a little busier, not bad. We had 8 emergency calls in April. And they're listed there. Has anybody got any questions?
Any questions? Councillor Long?
The kitchen grease fire, everybody was safe in that one? I heard it was quite bad.
It was pretty bad, but everybody survived, yeah.
Perfect. Good to hear.
Any other questions for the fire chief on his report? No more questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to accept. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Moving on, public peace officers report. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Gilroy.
The council received the Senior Peace Officers March 2018 report for information.
Nothing much other than March was a busy time for snow due to the fact that we had a lot of it. Plus, and we don't have a snow removal bylaw per se. We just have a policy. So I'm in the process now of drafting that up with the committee. 'Cause we did have some calls. Public Works was having issues with people parking, not moving their vehicles and stuff like that. So I think if we have the bylaw, we can utilize it, and hopefully people will take responsibility, and when we do get a snowfall, move their vehicles off the road so Public Works can clear it. So, other than that, had 3 dogs that were at large picked up. 2 went back to the owners, and 1 was surrendered to the animal rescue. Had a couple of tickets issued for dogs at large. Issued 12 tickets for fail to register dogs. Other than that, business as usual. Any questions?
Councillor Gilroy.
This is actually more toward this month, I think it is. I'd heard that there was some activity on top of the old hospital, and that our peace officers were called. Did you find anything? And if so, are you preparing a letter so we can then inform AHS that it is not as safe as they said it is?
Yeah, that was going to accompany my April report, but yes. To date, there's probably been 5 complaints of teenagers on the roof of the hospital.
It is a hotel.
RCMP have responded. We have responded too, and we've apprehended probably 8 to 10 teenagers. They've been issued warnings. Other than that, I've asked the RCMP to email me every occurrence located at the old hospital so we can tabulate all the infractions and stuff, and I'll be issuing that depending on how many come in on a month. I'll issue a letter to the coordinator at the hospital as to what the infractions are, and it's becoming an issue. It is signed, no entry. So with discussion with the RCMP, we will be starting to issue trespass tickets, which are fairly substantial, $287 every time you're caught. So other than that, we haven't had any entry to the building itself. It's just the rooftops. So, but it's probably just a matter of time before somebody enters.
Counselor Rose? So if you're gonna issue tickets to teenagers, do you think that there'd be much hope of getting paid for those tickets? Like, is that just gonna be an exercise in futility?
It'll be issued to the person, and then the guardian or parents will be notified.
And I guess minimally we can keep track of what would be owed potentially, because this is eventually can become an issue, a bigger issue, if it's going to be like we're going to have this vacant for a long time, and it's going to cost the taxpayers a lot to be able to patrol and issue tickets or deal with teenagers on the roof. Right, that's now our responsibility.
Well, yeah, it's unfortunate that the fence isn't 20 feet tall or
Yeah, I know, what are you going to do?
concrete, but yeah, it's hard. Active patrols, I guess, trying to,
Councillor Gilbride?
My whole purpose in asking that is so that the council here, and maybe the county as well, together, we would have some extra leverage in which to approach both AHS and the ministry, that's responsible Ministry of Health, to get some action on the property before someone gets hurt. And so that's more what I would like, any sort of combined report being given to our CAO, Mayor, Council, separate from the other infractions, so we can keep tabs on it, so that we can actually get something done for the people of this town.
there's obviously going to be liability issues there. Like you say, if somebody does fall off the roof or falls, or gets seriously hurt, so they have to take that into consideration too.
Councillor Stenos, did you have a question?
I do, but it's not regarding the hospital. It's the, in your report, the bylaw infraction totals. 19 verbal written warnings and 19 tickets issued.
Mm-hmm.
So are those the same 19 people?
Nope.
So there was 19 warnings and then 19 tickets?
Yeah, they're separate from,
Okay.
Any other questions? I just have a question regarding your, with the snow removal and vehicles not moving. Is it not in our traffic bylaw that your vehicle has to move after 72 hours and it can be towed?
Yes. We post it on the windshield or the driver's window, and then after the 72 hours,
Okay, I'm just wanting to confirm that. Anybody else have any other questions? Councillor Rose?
Regarding what you're doing with the bylaw for snow removal, do we now advertise when there's going to be snow removal? Like, people are all often wondering when they're going to have to move their vehicles, right? They don't know which streets we're going down. So I'm wondering if we used electronic sign to sort of even just say there's snow removal in effect over this period of time. I mean, I get it's very difficult to be able to say which street, move your vehicle this hour, but I mean, over a period of time, like, you find that maybe that would be helpful. As long as we can say, please, watch our website or our sign, there'll be snow removal over this weekend, or there'll be snow removal from this date to that date. So there's some opportunity, maybe we could.
Oh, definitely, we can advertise on the sign.
Vern?
The last 4 times we've advertised on the sign, we've advertised on the website, and at the start of the year, we also advertised that the policy is available to be read online.
Yeah.
So there is a dictation in there. When there's a certain amount of accumulation is when we start to move our equipment in the policy.
Yeah, I mean, people should have some common sense. With it snowing, we're going to remove the snow eventually, but even that just reminder that as they drive by, they see, snow removal in effect, please move your vehicles, like just sort of a generic. Because I think it's too time consuming when you guys are already overworked to have to go individual streets and leave all those notices, and I know that was a discussion before, so.
Because I think we had discussed this during your last report that you had made, we had discussed how we were gonna do this because it was starting to become an issue where vehicles weren't being moved and had been pretty much there all winter. And you could tell by the wind roll around them, so we have some issues in terms of communication, enforcement. So we had sort of discussed issues on how we could kind of add to the advertising, and there was radio and stuff. So, I mean, we have a little bit of time before the next winter that we can kind of fine tune how we're going to do this, but it has been discussed. So, any other questions, Councilor Courtney?
How did it go with the OHS consultant for the arena and the ammonia?
Last time I talked to Rick, everything was satisfactory to the inspector. He just had to do some improvements and stuff, but other than that, I think it's pretty much a done deal.
I just see that your meeting was set for April 9th. I just didn't know how that with the consultant, how that went.
Good.
Good. Excellent.
Any other comments or questions for the senior peace officer? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor to accept. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to the minutes. April 24th regular meeting. Councilor Rose.
The council approved the minutes from the April 24th, 2018 regular meeting of council as presented.
Any comments, questions? Councilor Stenhouse?
I might be confused here, but I don't believe the peace officer was here that day at that meeting. For attendance?
When was your last meeting?
No, I was not, no, sorry.
You are right.
We don't go there.
Anything else? Any other? Have we responded to the public delegation, Mr. Holmberg, regarding his discussions about the state of the sidewalks, Public Works?
Me and Mike Dente have taken a drive around town, and we are identifying different areas that we can put a patch to that may be areas of his concern. I did see Mr. Holmberg in his wheelchair or motorized car there on the road, but it was where there was a sidewalk that was perfectly good. So I'm not sure exactly what areas he's referring to, but we'll keep identifying those locations.
Okay. Any other comments, questions on the minutes? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor to accept. All in favor? Carried. Next item on the agenda, 3B, business arising, mayor's absence. Councilor Rose.
That council authorized Mayor Brian Panasic to be excused from attending the May 8, 2018 regular meeting of council.
I'm not really sure why this is even on the agenda. Please.
I had talked to the mayor when he called me, and what he said, he missed the previous meeting.
Yes.
He was gonna miss this one,
Yes.
and if something happened where he was missing the other one, he could be called on it for missing too many meetings and asked to resign.
It's, it is, according to the MGA, if you are absent from all regular meetings of council for an 8-week period, you are not qualified to remain unless you get a clearance from your council.
He's just trying to get the clearance.
So,
That's why.
so is he asking,
Just to be excused from this one, and then his 8 weeks will start from the next meeting.
okay, I just needed I just couldn't figure out why this had come on, because I was kind of like, well, this is kind of moot, he's not here, so why are we accepting it? But Councillor Gilroy?
I'm not picking on our mayor, but I do have a concern. The only time we've done it since I've been on council is when Councillor Long, for medical reasons, was not able to be here. We've all took the pledge when we took our appointments that we'd make this a priority, that we would be here as often as possible. And some of us have had to change work schedules in order to be here, to make sure we fulfill our commitment. And being the mayor, that is the extreme leadership position on this council. So I'm sorry for, to be honest, if it was a health thing, I would be fine with it. But to put it as a safeguard just in case he has another conflict, I'm not sure I can go with that. I'm sorry. Because he is the mayor, he's the leader of this town, and he knew full well before he got in the position that he'd be here. He's going to go to some of the side meetings. So I do have a concern that way.
Councillor Long?
That being said, we all have busy work schedules and lives and everything else, and sometimes these things occur. I think that Mayor Panasic's doing it out of respect for us, out of respect for the process. He didn't have to. He's probably not going to miss any more meetings, but he wanted to make sure that he was aware and knew that we were aware that he'd missed a couple already and in a row. I think it was a professional courtesy, and he was trying his best to just let us know and to alleviate and say, okay, I am following the process. It could happen to any one of us. And so as much as we don't want it to, as much as we want to contribute and be held accountable by our constituents and represent them as fairly as possible, sometimes, unfortunately, life gets in the way.
Any other comments or questions? We have a motion from Councillor Rose to be excused from attending the May 8th, 2018 regular council meeting. All in favor? Carried. Opposed? Moving along to the addendum 3.2. A letter of support for the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. Councillor Long.
Council grant permission for the AUMA to use the Town of High Prairie logo and Mayor Brian Panasic's name on the letter that will be sent to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau regarding the support for the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion project.
Since Mayor Panasic isn't here, has he agreed to his name? Okay.
This was a time-sensitive matter,
Okay,
so,
yep.
and we did contact the mayor, and he was okay with having his name put on the letter.
Okay. Any comments or questions regarding this letter of support? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Carried. Moving along to finance. Treasury report. Could I have a motion, please? Councilor Stenhouse.
The council received the April 2018 Treasurer's Report as presented for information.
Any comments? Go ahead.
My treasurer is in Edmonton at a, I guess it's a trade show to promote the community again, the same as she attended last year with Darlene Adams from the museum. And she said if you have any questions regarding her report, to give her a call when she's back on Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay. Seeing no questions, if you have any questions, contact the treasurer when she gets back on Monday. Thursday? She's back Thursday? Okay. So we have a motion to accept. All those in favor? Carried. Going to 5B1. bylaw 07/2018, code of conduct for members of council. Could I get a motion, please? Councillor Rose,
Council give first reading to bylaw 07/2018, code of conduct for members and council.
Members of council.
oh, of council, sorry. Anybody have any questions or comments regarding this? The new changes to the MGAs, you now have to, we had a code of conduct policy, but we now have to have a code of conduct bylaw. So that's why this is done. Did you have a question, Councillor Rose? Go ahead.
So, just on the details of it, because I know like we've just transferred a lot of the same information, and have we copied from another municipality? Have we used anything?
They did get a template.
The template, I believe, came right from Municipal Affairs.
Okay. Because it has this, the orientation, every member must attend the orientation training offered by the municipality within 90 days after the member takes oath of office.
Okay, so
Part of the
that's part of the MGA.
But it says must.
You must take it.
Yes.
Oh, see, I thought that we didn't.
This is the new one. And all the council attended except for Councillor Stenhouse, and she went to Great Valley.
Okay, so that's good. I thought when we were at that training that they said that they have to encourage you to take it, that there was no, they couldn't enforce it. So I was just questioning the word must, because if they weren't going to be able to enforce it anyway. And then the other question was on 19.4C. Public of a letter of reprimand. I think it's just not proper sentence structure there. I just can't quite get. So these are sanctions that can be imposed, right? So you go to see, okay, the bylaw may include public of a letter of reprimand. So is it just a public letter of reprimand? Is that what we're trying to say?
I didn't do it.
So that'd be page 8, yeah, or page 34. So is that one of the sanctions, a public letter of reprimand? I think?
What was your question? Sorry.
So 19.4C.
Hang on.
It's a
19.4C.
yeah.
Okay.
It says public of a letter of reprimand or request for apology. So is
yes,
that supposed to be
that
a
doesn't-
public? Is it supposed to be
Public letter of reprimand
Okay.
or request for apology and the member's response. I think that's just a misspelling
Yeah,
as
that's what I
opposed to
figured.
public.
Yeah, and I just wanted to confirm that that's what it actually was, is that we wanted a public letter of reprimand.
This is only first
Sounds
reading,
fine.
so
A public
we'll
letter of
make the
reprimand.
amendments and bring it back to the next thing.
Yeah. Councillor Gilroy.
I believe when we were discussing this
That's a really
at the
weird
bylaw meeting, I believe it was the idea that the sanctions are not just for something that may happen in council. It could also be something that happens if we do something within the public as well as a councillor. And so it's the idea that if we did something we have to apologize to the public for, it would be definitely something that would go to the public and or that's one of the responses.
Are in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
For example, if we say we
clarify that and then to correct.
say, for example, if we got really mad in a meeting and we called someone down to the lowest, and they complained about that, because it is public and it's on, it's recorded as well, then that would, if the council could sanction to say, okay, well, you made it public, the yelling at the person or calling them whatever, then you need to do the same thing to publicly apologize as opposed to write a letter to the individual alone, and so sort of action to action type of thing.
I think we need to. I think we need to at the next bylaw, when we amend this for the second reading, to make the changes, to see exactly what wording we had for that and stuff, so we make it a little more concise and clear? Okay. Any other comments or questions on it? Okay, we have a motion to accept for first reading.
Oh, sorry, I voted.
All in favor?
There we go.
Carried. Seniors Week. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Long?
That council proclaimed June 3rd to 9th, 2018, Seniors Week in High Prairie.
Any comments, questions? None, seeing none. Oh, Councillor Courtney?
This year, is that the week we're gonna have the barbecue with, we put $2,000 away for, barbecues during that week in Seniors Week? Is that the week or what?
Go ahead, Council, Theo.
We talked about that, me and Nancy, and we're not sure if $2,000 is gonna be enough for a barbecue. So,
Maybe we can
Well,
talk about this at the strategic plan.
we don't know, FCSS usually do the Seniors Week barbecue, and Recreation has looked after it too, but
Yeah, look,
with
recreation.
funding
yeah.
from both the county and the town, so.
Yeah, so it was during Seniors Week, and that was the recreation looked after the High Prairie Seniors barbecue, and then the FCSS did once in the other areas.
Councillor Long?
Did at the time, Councillor Panasic do one as well at the lodge during Seniors Week?
Yeah, housing did one, yeah.
Councillor Stenhouse?
From what I recall, I thought that 2,000 was for town appreciation, not Seniors Week. I thought that was our give back to town appreciation to everybody.
It was supposed to be for the.
No.
That's what I was asking.
Just clearing that up.
Good point.
Clear enough. Thanks for that clarification.
Red letter D.
You're on the roll.
Because I know we had discussed, because I remember bringing up the fact of having like a barbecue, an appreciation barbecue, so these are two separate things? Okay, okay,
All right.
all right. Any other comments or questions on Seniors Week? We have a motion on the floor, all in favor? Carried, moving on, Cultures Days grant. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Rose.
The council write a letter of support to Darlene Adams, Executive Director of the High Prairie and District Museum and Visitor Information Center, in applying for an Alberta Culture Day grant.
Any comments, questions? Seeing none, we have a motion for a letter of support. All in favor? Carried. Moving on, Lesser Slave Lake Economic Alliance. Councillor Rose.
The council make a motion to respond to the email from EDT expressing an interest in being part of a RETA that supports the region. I know it's different than the recommended action, sorry Brian, but it's just like in answer to what the letter was. That was sort of what I'd like to see us do.
Councillor Gilroy.
I will restate what I said previous to this when we have talked about this before, and that is that before we make any move on this, I would like to have the representatives from LSLEA come and explain to us what they said, what they did, show us documents that show that they're viable or whatever, or they're planning for the future, and especially in light of the fact that in the Leader, the Lakeshore Leader, the newspaper, back on April 11th, there was an interesting article from the report of the mayor of Slave Lake, where he took the time to promote trying to get a RETA for Slave Lake. And my concern is that he was part of the original LSLEA. And secondly, I look at the financial benefit, and I don't think we fight hard enough for some of these places. I believe the benefit is, well, actually, Mr. Martinson could probably tell us what the rent is worth. I think it's something like around $24,000 we get in rent from them, and they only ask for about $2,400 back. I mean, I don't want to lose any more money coming in here. And no offense, I believe that we need to fight harder to keep businesses and organizations like this, and not just roll over and let them out. I'd like to know why. Is it because the municipal economic development people do not recognize First Nations as viable groups? Is it because they want municipalities part of it? I'd like to know why. What they're thinking is to turn this down. And so I'd like to have representatives from LSLEA to state their case before this council, before we sort of just accept an email from this group. So,
The government? Yeah, not a,
and if the government said, we no longer recognize the town of High Prairie as a town, would you like everyone else to say?
sorry, I'm just clarifying.
No,
It's not just a
and that's the point I'm getting at here. If it's been published in the newspaper that a former member here of the LSLEA is trying to get their own, and it's Slave Lake is trying to get their own, and it's published in the newspaper by the Lakeshore Leader, not Chris Clegg, but Lakeshore Leader, I want to hear from the people themselves. And so I don't think we have, I think we need to put this aside until we can actually hear from the people in LSLEA before we examine further.
Councillor Long, Councillor Stenhouse.
I don't disagree that we need to have the people hear from LSLEA to explain what's happened, but clearly there must have been issues. I don't believe that it's because the province is against First Nations people. That's a diatribe that I've heard, and it's not the case. I think there's other issues that need to be addressed. I think Arita would be able to work with and help promote and help First Nations communities that in economic development and local communities and hamlets in their economic development. It's all how we incorporate that in what we do. But there's got to be a reason as to why LSLEA stopped getting funding. And it's not because they were the be-all, end-all representatives for First Nations people in this community. They do that very well themselves, with or without the help of anybody else. So that being said, I don't believe that's a provincial position, obviously. But the issue is important. Why did LSLEA not meet requirements? Why did they stop getting funding? That's the concern, and for me, and if it's the same organization that's going to be trying to start Arita here, that were former LSLEA, then what are they going to do differently to make sure that it's successful and viable? So those questions I'd love to ask them for sure. Yeah.
Councillor Stenhouse?
My issue is conflicting information from emails received. This email was received April 26th saying that funding, they would no longer be funded. Yet on April 30th, we received an email saying that funding from the provincial government was on its way. So we're getting conflicting information here as to, is there funding or is there not funding? I totally agree with Brian. We need them in here to tell us what's going on.
I'll change my name to Councillor Brian.
I guess my comment is regards to this. I don't know how much of an answer we're going to get from the LSLEA as to why they didn't meet the fund, why the funding was removed or why the government isn't funding them anymore. I think we'd get a better answer from asking the Jill Black and Michelle Evans of the Assistant Deputy of Economic Development, like if they would even tell us why the funding was removed for LSLEA. Councillor Stenhouse.
But is the funding actually removed? As I said, in the email April 26th, it says funding was removed. April 30th, funding was instated, so.
So who are these emails from?
Exactly. Oh. Well, the email from April 26th is the one in our agenda package.
From the Shawkins group.
So are they both from the same people telling
No,
you the funding is removed?
the
and-
one that Councillor Stenhouse is talking is the third page attached. It's from LSLEA saying that they
April
received funding from the
26th.
government for another 4 to 6 months. It's the third page. It's from LSLEA, the package that, the one,
Well, I know I read a letter from LSLEA that said that they had some funding, which my understanding is it's previous funding that's been held back until they had to meet certain requirements, but it is likely, and I'm thinking it's funding that's from the previous year that was already allocated to them,
Yeah,
but
but-
they still had to make requirements. So their email from their executive director is saying that they've got funding that's coming in to cover, right? But the letter that we got from Economic Development and Trade says they are getting no funding going forward.
But that was sent before the one that said that they are getting funded.
You mean the one from Linda?
Right.
Okay, so when you say that, it makes it sound like the government sent conflicting information.
Right. The government said no funding
Right. And then
on the 26th, and then
LSLEA
on the
said
30th,
LSLEA said
yeah,
they are.
said that the funding was in place. So we don't know, is it or is it not in place here? That's what I'm getting
Councillor
at.
Gilroy.
I go back to the fact that we have, as a council, since I've been on here, we've invested in LSLEA. Not our money, the town's money, the taxpayers' money. And I'm sorry, but if they have been denied this, they owe us an explanation for the amount of time and effort that we have invested in this and the amount of money we've invested, as opposed to hearing he said, she said. I want proof. I want, if they have a check coming in, I want to see the check come in, because you know what? They pay us money. If they don't have one coming in, then fine. We go on. But I want proof, as opposed to, well, this person's saying this saying this. Let's be a council and let's go on proof and actually go into this stuff. For example, we're going into all these computer parts. Did we just take the first person? No. We looked into the stuff. We asked. We questioned. That's part of our job. And so I just want to have full accounting from them, saying why they believe it, what kind of presentation they did, are they getting money, are they not getting the money? Fine. What are our options from there? Let's move forward, as opposed to this. I want something solid.
Councillor Courtly, then Councillor Rose.
Did we not make a motion a while back, I can't remember when, but to not support the LSLEA? No, we always have, financially, even
I
up
think
until this last.
we're the only one now who's supporting it.
Is that what it was? I'm trying to remember.
Do you have a list, Brian?
I did have a list.
Yeah, I think we need a list of who is actually supporting and who isn't.
I guess continue on where I was going with this is it's pretty written in black and white here that the government, the EDT, Alberta Economic Development and Trade, absolutely says they're not continuing with the funding from here on in. That's it, that's all. Why? It doesn't elaborate. Will you get an answer out of them, LSLEA? Maybe, maybe not. We can ask them to come and explain it, but I highly doubt they will. I mean, that's just my thinking. But I would say that if they've put this letter out saying that they're no longer funding, but they still support, they're saying they still support that in the community, economic development as a regional level in the community. There's still that option for us to research that on another level, right? So, and I agree with Michael saying, well, if they've already been down that road and it's the same people, same group doing it again, I mean, it's the same result. And we have to look to a different area for that, I think.
Councillor Rose, Councillor Gilroy.
And that was just sort of what I was following up to, and partially, Councillor Gilroy, what you're saying, which is Slave Lake is already jumping on the bandwagon, right? So they know that there's going to be a new opportunity for RETA in the area, and they have indicated that they're interested in it, right? So my motion is to tell the government we're interested in it, and to not let Slave Lake be the only ones, and to not wait any longer for more information. At this point, all I'm saying is respond to the letter that the government sent us that said that will conclude its funding relationship with the organization LSLEA. Right? So it's the government's telling us they're concluding their relationship with LSLEA, and they're saying, should your community have an interest in engaging on a fresh approach to regional collaboration, I encourage you to reach out. So I'm responding with reaching out, because I think that we owe our community that, is to reach out and say, because I know, and I've spoke to people from the councillors from Big Lakes County as well, and they're interested as well. There's Slave Lake, Lesser Slave River, High Prairie, Big Lakes County already have expressed interest in potentially looking at a fresh approach to regional collaboration. Now, there was a study that was done, and that was partly what was given to the government, and all of you are aware of that study. So in that report, they found that there was a flavor in the area to have a collaborative spirit for economic development, and that everybody really wanted it, but there was a distrust for the local level, or the local RETA, or for LSLEA, that they weren't going to be able to reestablish the trust factor within the community, that there was too much damage done. So the recommendation was that there was nothing that they could do with this one to move forward, but there definitely was the flavor with First Nations, with the municipalities, for us to move forward collaboratively in some capacity. I just don't want us to sit around and miss our opportunity, because I do think that that's what High Prairie has done in the past, is waited, get another report, let's invite somebody to the meeting. I say, let's write the letter, respond to this that we got, and says yes. All we got to say is yes, we're interested in this collaborative approach, and we'd love to host it here. I don't want to see us lose it from the community. I'd like to see us keep it here, right? But, I mean, if the way we're going to go forward is to work with Slave Lake and Big Lakes County, and this is what the government wants us to do, what they actually want us to do is have, they want a RETA on this, like, a Slave Lake area, like on the lake area, RETA, because they think that we can do something with tourism. They look at lots of different opportunities, but they see this region and they think right now we're dysfunctional and just broken, and this LSLEA group, they don't think that they can fix it. They've tried, right? And this is where they paid $30,000. They gave LSLEA $30,000 to get a consultant in. That consultant came in and did a review. I talked to that consultant. The consultant told me, he says, there's not one time ever that he's written a report where he couldn't make a few recommendations, at least to consider making some changes so we can potentially fix things. He says he couldn't, at the end of his interviews, at the end of his report, he says he couldn't make any recommendations to fix it. He thought it was that broken.
Councillor Gilroy.
Then that actually goes to my other suggestion, since you have just said that we should be moving on this.
Yeah.
Is it possible then for us to apply for a community and regional economic support program fund, because they may fund us up to $100,000, to look at how to reestablish a fresh RETA up here, where we would, because I know that if this was Big Lakes County, and I hate using them as an example because it's unfair to use them without them knowing it, but they would do that. They would go after it. If they were going to lose something, they would go after a grant and they would fight. And so if you believe in this, then can we at least get, see if we can get the extra funding then, and then redo it ourselves so that we are part of it and we're not being left behind, and we're not letting other partners do all the driving when we can just as well do the driving. And it doesn't mean we're getting $100,000 to reestablish LSLEA. We're getting it, as you had pointed out, a fresh approach. So could we do that then, so that at least we are trying to show that High Prairie is important in this region? Because I don't think we get enough credit when we're dwarfed by Grand Prairie, Peace River, and Slave Lake. And we deserve it, and our people deserve it.
Councillor Courtley.
Brian, you're absolutely correct. That's why we have to start with this letter, get this letter off to them saying, we are 100% behind it. Let's get something going, get something started. So that's the first step.
Okay, so after all, can you reread Councillor Rose's motion, please?
Well, I was hoping she wrote it down, but I did get.
Turn your mic on.
I did get make a motion to respond to the email from the government. That's all I got.
From the EDT
Yeah.
expressing our interest in being part of a RETA that
You
supports our
talk way too fast.
I'll give you that motion. You want me to read this again?
You can.
Make a motion to respond to the email from the Economic Development and Trade expressing our interest in being part of a RETA that supports our region. Now, that was loose. We can fix that. We can make it specific to what the letter says, which is support a fresh approach to regional collaboration. Or I just said to support a RETA that supports our area.
Okay, so we have that motion on the floor.
Do you want it more specific?
Any other comments or questions on that? Councillor Stenhouse?
I like the motion, but I'd still like them to come in here.
That's a separate motion.
Okay.
So we have this motion on the floor. So we've discussed it. All in favor of responding to this letter? Carried. Opposed? Now, if somebody would like to make a motion to have LSLEA come to a council meeting, go right ahead. Councillor Gilroy.
Which I'm not sure how much it's going to do now that we've made that a motion, but I'd like to make a motion that we get LSLEA to the leadership of LSLEA to come and give a response to this letter and give us clarification on what they have been doing and are doing, or the viability of it. However you want to put that from that.
Okay.
Okay, so Michael's going to put it in font 8 as opposed to font 10.
Okay, so we have a motion to ask LSLEA to come in to the future council meeting to explain their situation, etc. So all in favor of that? Carried. Okay.
Can I just comment one more thing on this? And Brian, just to what you're saying, if for some, and the same with you, Judy, if for some reason these are really truly conflicting and there's really funding that, and we're misreading it, all we're doing by responding to this letter is responding to the government's request to show interest in a RETA, right? If there was any way that they're still willing to fund LSLEA, I don't think that necessarily means we're damaging that, right? Like, all we're doing is responding to the government. If they actually say that there's an opportunity to build on that somehow, then we could certainly support that.
Councillor Gilroy.
One more thing that came out of our conversation just now. Should we have a motion then to ask administration to apply for a CARES program grant for up to the $100,000 to do workshops in the area with, say, the town of Slave Lake, MDF Lesser Slave River, the partners that Councillor Rose talked about, to see as that being another option? Should we have a motion to that? Because if there is, I will make a motion that we ask administration to apply for a CARES program grant to host a workshop to evaluate RETA potential up here. Is that?
Okay. So we have that motion on. Any comments, questions on that? So we have a motion to get administration to apply for a CARES grant to investigate potential RETA possibilities in this area. Any comments, questions? Councillor Rose?
Now, should we be applying for the grant blind like this, or should we be having conversations first with Big Lakes County, Slave Lake, some of the previous members? Like, should that be, are they already doing it, I guess is where I'm going. Like, that part of the reason why I wanted us to respond quickly is because I know that that's what happens quickly. As soon as something like this is announced that they're not giving funding, other communities will be going forward. Like, are we better to have conversations, and maybe we'll bring this to administration and see what you guys want to do? Like, did you want to apply for a grant right away, or do you think that finding out what's going on, because there may be, this might be already stirred up with Big Lakes County, I'm not sure. Go ahead.
I think the first step is, like the government said, Michelle Evans' office is to show the interest. And if Slave Lake has already done that, then they'll dictate which area is going to have the RETA. So I think that's the first step. And they will dictate on who's going to get the funding in that. So, and then I can do the legwork and contact the county. I have talked to Roy about it already a little bit, so just to mention it. So,
Councillor Gilroy.
The reason I mention it is the next intake is June 1st to June 30th. And once again, as much as I appreciate what was just being said, we really need to have our name in front of these people more and more than we are. Because the more we hear about it, or the more they hear about us, the more they remember us. To quote Councillor Rose, all the networking is very important. The more times we meet people and get to know people and get our name in front of them, they will remember us in a positive way. And so if we're asking for this, we're showing very much a desire to be a major partner in this next RETA. So that's why I'm really suggesting we go for it.
Do you have a motion? What's your motion, please?
That council direct administration to apply for the CARES grant to investigate RETA in our area.
Okay, do we have that motion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. Moving on, meeting software. Somebody want to make a motion? Councillor Rose.
The council direct administration to enter into a contract with AllNet meeting software.
So my question with AllNet is they're going to supply us with this access. How are we as council accessing this? Is it just through our own laptop? Are we going to go back to tablets? I'm kind of confused as to how we're going to access this whole thing.
That's up to you. They said you can use whatever you want, or we do have those tablets that I can talk to the IT guys and see if they can just clear and let you guys use them again, I guess.
Yeah, well, that was my thing. They're pretty outdated, I'm sure, but I was just curious as to how we would access it.
Yeah.
Councillor Rose?
So you can use your own personal devices. You can actually even use a phone with it. So it depends on what you're comfortable with. Nancy and I did talk about letting IT take a look at this, talking to somebody at AllNet and our IT department and say, can these become more user-friendly? Because they weren't that user-friendly when
No,
they
they
were using. They were. So take a look at that. I think that then the next step may be, for those council that don't have access to their own tablet or computer or whatever that they're comfortable with and that want to have access here, we might have to look at, would the next step be a purchase of a few items if we needed that? Like, I think that because people can use laptops and because you can use other devices, it may not be as big of an issue, as well as I'm hoping that we'll find a solution to the tablets, because one of the challenges I found with the tablets the last time is there was like this double security sign in, right? And this is just web-based. It should be one sign-on. Like, it should be easier, but until we sort of see what we can do with those tablets. Ultimately, the majority of the advantage for the software is in administration getting this tool. Like, there should be a lot of advantage that way. For us, it should be just more about access and maybe being able to be more electronic and not have to rely on papers, because we should have easier access to everything and we should have that searchability, right?
Okay, so we have a motion to enter into the contract. Anybody have any comments, questions? Councillor Gilroy?
I see the estimates for the first 2 years. I'm looking at the quote page that was highlighted. for AllNet. And you've got the quote, the annual cost year 2. Is that the, I'm trying to remember if that is the most anyone's offered us out of the ones that we're looking at here, is the 2-year commitment. That, because you, as I said, you've got the quote for this year, or 1 year, and a second year. What happens the 3rd year? How do we control those costs once we get locked in? How do they connect to our, is it going to make it easier to put stuff on our, once we redesign our Facebook and our web page, will this make it easier to update these things so that when we have, because it says minutes can be done almost right after the meeting, will we be able to get the stuff on our website faster so that people in the community who want to look at it won't be a couple meetings behind? Will this be an option so that we're more accountable? Because if we're going to spend this money, I want to be accountable once again to the people who are paying the freight.
Do you have a comment to that, Nancy?
Yeah, as far as I know, it's really fast to get everything done. They post it as soon as I hit a button that it's ready to go, it goes up there. If it all works out with our, that's the one thing I don't know with us not doing our website, right? But as far as I understand, it should, yeah.
So, they said regardless of whether you use your own website, they would help, it would expedite the process. The other opportunity is that they actually do develop web pages, and that would maybe be the next step, because we're talking about a web page. We may be able to go right with this company. Doesn't mean we have to. There's lots of options for it, but basically Nancy should be able to have the minutes done at the council meeting as she makes the motions. That's it, like that. As soon as the meeting's done, she presses send, and everything should be set up to go directly to the web page. So it should be a lot quicker, right? I mean, there'll be a little bit of learning. A couple things, Nancy and I over the last couple of days have done a lot of research on, or the last couple of weeks did a lot of research on a few different companies, and I had the opportunity. So this company I brought back from when we were into FCM in Winnipeg. They've still honored the quote from 2 years ago. So I think what your question about 2 years down the road, they'd be charging us the same prices. They haven't seen much of an increase in the past couple of years. Their rates have been the same, and they actually specialize, and after digging in with all these other companies trying to come up with quotes, they specialize basically, they're Canadian based, they're out of Winnipeg, and they specialize in Western Canada. Like most of the municipalities that they deal with are Manitoba this way. And they've even got some features like CAO action lists that are just specific for Alberta, because Alberta's the only ones that deal with them. So that, plus the fact that we also did some research on, and I think I sent you guys an email about it, about hosting your information outside of our country, because some of these companies, although they're Canadian, they sound like they're a Canadian company, they actually they started in the US, so the hosting site for their data is in the US, and then there's issues attached to Privacy Acts, and what was the US?
Alabama or something like that?
No, what's the, oh, I forgot what I said on my email, where there's it's like a trade, anyway, there's some security issue. Yeah, so they said that they have seen companies that when they've had issues with other municipalities in other parts of Canada that did use a company that hosted in the US, they had a hard time getting information. Once things locked down, their information was stuck in the US, they couldn't get their information back to Canada. So those are challenges, like pick a Canadian company, and their rates have been fair and reasonable. And for 2 years, Nancy and I have been talking to the same people that work there. And I think that that's kind of fabulous. Instead of always getting somebody new, or it's a small enough company that you're dealing with the same people, and it kind of feels like you're actually getting a level of support staff. I know you're paying for it, but you're paying $4,000 to $5,000 a year to get an extra member of staff that can. So if Nancy's off sick for a month, Brian can actually call this lady or one of these frontline workers and get stepped through how to prepare the agenda on his own. Like you will always have that person there, even if we keep on changing staff. And I think that that's really, that goes to consistency for the town, right?
Any other comments? Councillor Quirkley?
After all this again, Nancy, is this gonna make, everything easier, efficient, and quicker, and
Yes.
more fun at work?
More fun.
I wouldn't go that far, but I think it will help.
No,
a
but it will be
lot.
more efficient
Yep.
and more
Yep.
quicker information at the fingertips. Ryan, you agree? Okay.
Councillor Gilroy? And I think
Don't
we're
get
gonna
me wrong,
finish
I'm not
on this.
against this. I'm not against this. We know we need it, and I know it's efficient and that. But as I said, there are certain things we want to make sure that when we enter into contracts, once again, it's going to be that way. The only other concern I have with the use of tablets is that how will we safeguard against a lot of sidebar conversations during council meetings if we're using tablets and that? Because I know some of these things do allow you to do quick text messaging back and forth. And
I'll include you.
Are you afraid we're gonna talk?
okay, can we just pass that code of conduct tonight and just backtrack it just before that comment? But anyway, I just want to make sure that at the same time the chair and others get full respect, and that there won't be a lot of sidebar conversations with the ability to do this online and that. Is that, I think that's only a fair thing to ask.
All right, I think we've kind of discussed this, and everybody has voiced their opinions. So we have a motion on the floor to direct administration to enter into a contract with AllNet. Seeing no other comments or questions, all in favor? Carried. And I need to take a 5-minute break.